Hello, Crafty Crandall fam. In today's video, we are taking the studio vlog that I posted last week one step further by creating the album art for the two songs that I recorded. I am so excited about these songs, and I am so excited to make this artwork. So previously, the artwork that I had done for my song Lifeless, I put in this sketchbook. This is the base artwork that I used for creating the album art. I took a photo on my iPad, and then in Procreate I did the overlay. So I want to do something similar for these next two songs and keep it a theme. This one is very dark blue, as you can see, so I'm thinking of two different color palettes for the next two songs that kind of tie into this stylistically, but relate to the individual songs. So right now we're going to do some thumbnails using our Caran d'Ache Neocolor Aquarelle crayons, and then when we do the actual illustration, we're gonna use gouache like we did in this one. Let's go. So I have a pretty distinct idea of what I want both to look like, but the colors are where I'm not quite sure. So I'm gonna do two color comps for each one. So we'll start with the top one being Bridge, and the bottom one will be I Will Rise. So my concept for the Bridge one is to make like a land mass on either side that then we have to bridge between, obviously. So I had taken some reference photos, and what I kind of want this to look like is more earthy and then beachy in the middle, with what is going to end up being kind of like our hands creating a bridge in the middle, which I've got photo references for, so like let's just ignore the lack of any form of anatomy here. But like it will be that the hands and stuff will be what I add with the iPad. So that part doesn't necessarily go into the painting. That part will be added digitally after the fact. And then, but like what I wanted to try to like make this look like a heart, but I still need like two obviously disconnected land masses. So like if I just sketch a heart here, how do I make my land mass into like these shapes without them connecting, I guess, is my quandary here. Right, like I almost need it to look like this, and then the other one could just come in like this, I guess, and like kind of like that. Maybe, we'll see. And then again, like with the hands here, I think that could look cool. And again, lack of anatomy here for the hands, but I have reference photos that we took. So that's kind of the concept for the design of the bridge one. And then for I Will Rise, the song like directly references a phoenix. So this one's going to be a little bit more abstract, but the focal point or the middle here is going to be kind of like a phoenix rising. So like it'll have like a flame on top of its head. That, and then I want like the wings coming out and something like that, I guess. And then I kind of love doing like loose sketches like this. It makes me happy. Because normally whenever like I sit down to do artwork, I feel like it has to be so polished and perfect. But when it comes to like a color comp, you can just literally block in the generic shapes, and it's just not that serious. And I kind of love that. like that. You can almost kind of a little bit tell that that's a phoenix, but like, let's be honest here. It's it is what it is. And then I'm just really gonna copy that over here to this side generically. Again, like not looking for this to be perfect. It just has to give me an idea for the color comp so that I know what I'm gonna try to do in like a realistic one. And then when we do the real sketch, that's where my drawing kind of has to be on point. But for this, it doesn't. I'm struggling with what to do with these legs. I don't know, like maybe he doesn't need legs. Maybe, you know what? This is my phoenix. Like maybe the phoenix doesn't, he doesn't need legs. And then like obviously, so like there'll be text like here. And then I will rise. I'm debating, I don't know if I want it to go like down here or like over the kind of like the chest area of the phoenix. I'm not really sure. Also, like I want his tail feathers to also kind of like splay out a little bit more, but I want there to be like a clear delineation as to like where those start. And then the background, obviously we'll get into the color. So I think actually, so I will rise, something like this, in the same font as I used for Lifeless. I like the idea of having consistency in areas and inconsistencies in others. Like I want obviously these to feel unique for the songs, because these songs are nothing like the other song that I wrote, but I want my body of work to be presented in such a way that it is clear, like that I made it, if that makes sense. Like I want it to be recognizable as my work, but maybe not as consistent across the board. So let's get into colors here. So what I'm thinking is, so obviously I want it to be blue in the middle, but like I want this to be a more like beachy blue. My concept is that I want you to be able to like line these up and create kind of like a rainbow of color. So yeah, I think like the middle will have more blue, and then it'll like gradiate outward toward the ends here. This part will be more like darker green, but also I'm kind of wondering if I want like, I could also do like a more of a beachy, like a sand color also. So like that's what we'll comp on this one, is doing more of like a sand color, because I think that could look cool too. Okay, so then on this one, we would end up doing more of like sand-ish coloring. But then, so I do still want like the water to look pretty light and airy and beachy, but in this case I think that I would do more like have more wavy, kind of like make it clear that it's almost transparent water, and do more like the kind of stuff that you see with respect to like Caribbean water and like the beach. I hope that that's kind of clear. Actually, I think what we're gonna end up doing is more like this and making like these lines more clear, and then we'll color them in with a lighter blue. And like we will end up having some patches of white, so I wouldn't end up coloring that all in. But then my question is, so like on Lifeless, what I liked is that it was obviously tying into like the concept of Lifeless being without life, so the hands were ghosts. Whereas in this case, like I don't know that I want the hands to be white, if that makes any sense. Also, I love how I totally just drew over the hand, so now it doesn't make sense. But I'm struggling with like what to do then with that. Cause I could still like keep the hands white, but is that what I want to do? I'm just not sure, and I don't want to lose these lines. I feel like this is a lot easier achieved like when you're actually layering watercolor, but that is kind of like the color comps. So if we look at these a little closer, I don't know that I'm sold on either one of them. We might have to do another one for bridge, but let's go on to I Will Rise, because I think that that one I've got a much more clear concept of. So I know that I want the Phoenix, I think that I want the Phoenix at least, to be yellow. And then I'm gonna do some harsh tones behind it. At least this is how I currently see it in my head, but we'll color comp a different option and see if maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? And like obviously it'll have some like orange elements to it, maybe like at the ends of the feathers and at the tops of its head. But then in the background, how I see it is like a harsh red, brown, like fire. Like this will be like burgundy basically. And then that'll kind of gradiate into more of like an orangey red. And then actually, yeah, carry that orangey red up here, and then add more of the burgundy up here as well. And then I kind of wanted some blue elements too, like, I just feel like that could look really cool. And obviously we'd have to play around with it, but like, right? I feel like that looks cool. And then for this one, like if we kind of took almost the opposite approach in a way, but made the Phoenix the blue, that could also look kind of cool, I think. And then like built the fire kind of around him. Oh, now I'm torn because I actually kind of like that too. Super curious as to which one you guys prefer. Please let me know down in the comments. Although we are going to obviously choose one and start working on the final paintings today. So I won't get the feedback in time, but I won't be releasing the songs for a little while yet, so if everyone overwhelmingly comes back with one or the other, I can certainly do another piece. I then took a short walk for some color inspiration. So I was seeking some inspiration from nature, and then when I came home, I lit a candle for fire. So I just got back from a walk, and I think that I am going to stick with this right hand side at least to start. Again, if I decide differently, then I can circle back. The nice thing about this sketchbook is that the pages are removable, so I can take them out, paint on them, and then put them back in. I took both of the pages out, and then I used some washi tape to tape the edges so that the aesthetic would be exactly the same as what I had for my lifeless painting. I think it would be so fun to have a sketchbook of all of these paintings together. Got my paper all set up, got my reference photo ready, opened my gouache, and of course, it's all dried out again. So I'll have to refresh my gouache quick. I also have my acrylic gouache for details over the top of this, but I want to start here because this is more malleable and I can adjust as needed. So I'll fix that and then we'll get to painting. If you want to see a video on how I typically refresh my gouache and have a successful go at it, I will leave a link in the cards. As is typical when I have to go through this process, some of the colors are a lot easier to mix than others. And to be honest, I just get kind of sick of this. Like, I get that this is like a really convenient set and it's really useful, but I think that I'm going to end up investing in some better quality gouache that comes in tubes so that I can avoid having to do this and waste my time in the future. If you have any recommendations for gouache, please leave them down below. I have used some of the Holbein gouache before, both the acrylic gouache and also their regular artist gouache. But I would be totally interested in any suggestions. Based on the gouache situation, I have decided to pivot and use watercolor instead. I started the bridge piece out by simply sketching out the heart. I do think that I was able to make it look like a heart successfully without the landmasses looking too odd. I then used just a sandy color as a base and then wanted to have kind of a sandy color as the base of the water. I have painted water previously using this method and had a lot of success. So from there, I started just adding the first initial little bit of blue paint. I added it on pretty thickly, and this did take quite a while to dry. You do see off to the right the start of the I Will Rise piece, and that is because I had to work on them both simultaneously, otherwise I would have been painting for 2 days. But I then added just some greenery and some intrigue to the land masses while trying to keep them slightly different. I wanted the right hand side to be more rugged and the left hand side to be less developed and just more I guess open was my concept, because the right hand side of the piece would have the male hand and the left hand side of the piece would have the female hand. I then layered in another layer, this time of green, and you see that they're bigger kind of chunks of green with some kind of space in between to retain some of the white. I will say that bridge is kind of a piece that means a lot to me, and so I worked really hard on this piece, and I would genuinely appreciate any feedback that you have, whether you like it. I got some pretty positive feedback already, and it just means a lot to me that I was able to paint a piece that I am truly proud of to represent this song. This song will forever be probably the most special song that I release, so I am just so grateful. If you're curious to hear more about why that's the case, go check out my vlog. I'll leave a link to that video for you in the cards. In the meantime, let's explore the I Will Rise cover. I started obviously again with the sketch of the phoenix, and I added the talons pretty heavily in the sketch because the talons are kind of referenced in the song itself, and so I wanted to make sure that they made the final piece despite my difficulties with them in the initial sketch. I then started layering in my warm colors, trying to create that gradient that I wanted. I love painting pieces like this. It's such a fun technique. You're using the wet on wet technique the whole time, and it's just really neat to kind of build layers up like this and then let it dry. So once that was dry, I then went in with the blue and established the base for the phoenix itself. I am still not 100% sure that I love the blue, so I might go back and eventually do the original concept that I had in my head, which was the yellow one. But in the meantime, I have at least finished this piece and understand what the Blue Phoenix can look like, and would really appreciate your feedback on this piece in general from both a color standpoint, but also just like an aesthetic standpoint. I mean, this is going to be on what is ostensibly, from my perspective at least, probably going to be my most popular song, as it's like the best written and I think the most relatable song that I have thus far. Obviously, at this point, my bank of songs is only 3, but as I continue to write and record more, I would think that this one kind of becomes almost a cornerstone of the songs that I have released. So, therefore, I want this artwork to be good. And I think I was a lot more proud of the bridge piece than I am of this piece. So I'd appreciate your feedback and just like, do you find this design visually appealing? Is it interesting? Do the colors actually work that well? Does this look like a phoenix? Like, can you tell that this bird is meant to be a phoenix off the bat? Or is it only through like listening to the song that you're going to get that context? I'm super curious to know. I went back through and did some of the details in black, trying to establish more contrast because to this point I didn't think that I had enough contrast, and I tried really hard to just continue to develop layers. I think that's something that I generally struggle with when it comes to watercolor. Like, I'm a very impatient person, so waiting for layers to dry and continually having to add and build more layers does get frustrating. But I think overall on both of these pieces, that is something that I actually accomplished and did decently well for once. So although this particular piece might not be my favorite, I do think that I accomplished my goal and really took my time to build it up and make myself as proud of it as I could have in the moment with the starting blocks that I gave myself. So overall, a really positive experience, and I was really excited to have a tangible piece of artwork for both of these songs that was completed. After I finished with the painting, it was time to start adding some digital elements to each, which also gave me the opportunity to kind of clean up some of my physical mistakes. So I've gotten to the point now where I think I am done enough to take this into Procreate and work on like the digital component. I am now sort of regretting my choice of the color comp for this one. I think I should have done the yellow phoenix, but like I said, I can always go back and do it again. I will just see if I like what I come up with digitally for this one. And then I'm pretty happy with how this one came out. I really like the details in the water, and I'm glad that I took the time to do so many layers of paint. Normally I get impatient and annoyed, but I think because I had both kind of going on at the same time, it was a little bit better from a frustration standpoint. So let's pop these into Procreate and see what we can do. First, the requisite super satisfying tape peeling moments that we all wait for in any art video. As a non-digital artist, typically, in true Sabrina fashion, I totally didn't flip the iPad into landscape to screen record this, so apologies that it is in portrait and a little bit tough to see what I'm doing. But essentially, the gist of it is that I imported the photos that I took and then just started digitally modifying them. You can see that I am fixing some of the wing structures and just adding additional color and blending. I realized that this kind of lost some of the texture of the watercolor paper as I did it. So end result, I almost don't think was successful. I think what I'm going to have to do eventually when I reapproach this is make the painting better, and by that I mean like cleaner edges if I want them, or go back to my initial statement of being more abstract. Originally in my brain, this piece was far more abstract than it ended up being, so I think that we might end up having a part 2 of this video and reapproaching this concept from the completely other angle. So yellow phoenix and really just more abstract nature to the piece. But I did at least manage to find a text placement that I liked and kept the text consistent with lifeless so that I could have some form of continuity across my pieces, and I will be interested to see when I reapproach it if I can achieve what I wanted. I then realized, unfortunately, for the bridge, like the photos that we took, I stupidly wore my watch. So I had to completely take out my watch from the photos, which was essentially just me color matching and blending and color matching and blending, because I knew I was gonna like white this out, so it didn't have to be exact. It just needed to be enough that when I whitewashed it, it would not show. But man, that was like a really those are the kinds of things that if you could go back and do it again, you'd be like, oh, of course I need to take my watch off. But since my boyfriend lives, 15 hours away from me, it's not really something that I can just be like, hey, let's take another photo. So I did have to do some form of editing here. However, I do think that the end result, like, you really can't tell that that's not my real wrist. So it worked out okay. I then just made the photo white and I blurred it slightly and then added again that continuous, is that a word? I don't think it is. I added the text for continuity. I actually really love how this came out and I'm so proud of it and I'm really happy with it. I at first wasn't sure if I really liked the hands, but honestly, I think the hands were the move, and that was the one that I'll be sticking with. Thank you guys so much for watching. Catch you in the next one. Bye.